Okay, so first of all, on these, be very careful because the directions are a little different from problem to problem. So the first ones are just review doing slope. So remember, there's two ways to do slope from yesterday. The first one was just do the chart, right? And then put in the numbers like that. And figure out how far apart they are. So how far is it from 9 to 9? 0. And from here to here would be down 13. So remember that it's y over x. So we got negative 13. Now, if you're not sure when there's a 0 on top, what should it be? It might help to do a little mock graph here. So negative 1, 9. And negative 14, 9. And you can see that it's a horizontal line. And if you remember that horizontal is a 0 slope, that'll lead you back here to say, oh yeah, when the 0 is on the top, that's a 0 slope. Okay? So remember, the word horizontal has two O's in it, kind of like 0. So if you're not sure, like, well, I can't remember if a horizontal line is undefined or 0, just remember that, well, the two O's are kind of like zeros in the word horizontal, and that hopefully leads you back to this. Okay? So, and if you know that, you'll probably know the opposite as well. Like on number 2, when you try to do the slope here. By the way, I did the table method for slope here, but there's also just the formula method where you put the y's on top and the x's on bottom. So you can use either one. You don't have to do both, but either way. So if I did this way on number 2, I'd have 19 and 0. Right, those are the two y's. And the x's would be 12 and 12. Right, which leads us to 19 over 0. So again, here's another problem with 0 in it. So is that going to be horizontal or is that going to be vertical, and what's that slope equal? A couple ways of looking at this. If you know horizontal, right, equals 0, right, the two y's are the same, and we got a slope of 0. This time the two x's are the same, so it's like the opposite. So the opposite of having 0 on the top is 0 on the bottom. The opposite of a 0 slope is a undefined slope. Okay? And again, you can do a mock graph. 12, 19 would be up here. 12, 0 would be right here. It's a vertical line, which is undefined slope. So anytime you have a 0 on the bottom, undefined slope. Now, that does not mean, not for this problem, but for later problems, this does not mean there's no equation. So here's a few fast-track ways of doing these problems when you have the same number of the same variable. If both y's are the same, like 9 and 9 on this one, so if the y's are the same, the equation will just be y equals 9. Okay. You can, without doing any slope work or anything else, that's the fast way of getting the answer there. And same thing here, if the x's are the same, see how they're both 12, I know the equation of that line, since they cross the x-axis at 12, is going to be x equals 12. So you can kind of cheat a little bit. If you notice at the very beginning of the problem, if the two x's are the same, you know the equation is x equals 12. There's nothing really you have to do. Same thing, if the two y's are the same, you know the equation is y equals 9. Don't have to do anything else. And if it's a y equals, you know it will have a 0 slope. Okay? So that's a little review on horizontal and vertical. Now, these you really only have to do the slope. So always read the directions. Once you get down here, this is what we were practicing yesterday on number 6. Okay? So you have to do two parts. You have to find the slope using any method you want. Right? And then you have to do the y-intercept. You have to do both. Okay? So recall, this is what we did yesterday. So I can go x, y, 4, 4, negative 4, negative 4. And I have to go down 8 on this side, down 8 on this side. Negative 8 over 8, which is just 1. So because I know the slope is 1, my equation is going to be just y equals x. find out what the y-intercept is by plugging it back in. So y equals mx plus b. And use either point. I'm going to use the non-negative one. So I'm going to do 4. Slope is 1. Like that. So we have that. And subtract 4 on both sides. So we get 0 equals b. So really, we don't really need to put plus 0. Our equation will just be y equals x. So remember, you don't need to put a plus 0 y-intercept. You do not need to put the 1 slope either. Okay, so that's a review of what we did yesterday. If you go to the back, there's just a review of just the actually easier problems where you already are given the equations, but notice how these have slopes of 0 and slopes of undefined. So if you use that tip I gave you earlier up here about the y's and x's being the same, you can get all 4 of those questions done in about 10 seconds. So use this to help yourself. X's are the same, it's going to be x equals. If the y's are the same, it's going to be y equals whatever number that is. Okay, and the last few I think are just a review of solving for slope-intercept form. Okay. Now on here, the only thing different is that you have to be comfortable with fractions. So like when you divide both sides by -5 here, definitely cancel out the 2 negatives. So that's positive, positive. So we'll have 4/5 x. But this does not reduce, so just actually put 32 over 5 and that's it, because you can't reduce that, you can't fix that. That's all you can do. Alright, so that should give you enough to get started. Again, finish with number 6 first. Finish this up, show it to me, and you can pick up number 7 on the back table over here. And tomorrow you need to finish this up. We'll have a quiz tomorrow possibly. Okay.